My name is Tracy Robertson, and I am director of the Wichita Falls Museum of Art at MSU Texas. And we are very proud to be, again, the second year, the host venue, rather, of this important endeavor called Museum Day. I want to thank Amber for her leadership in the Regional Museum Network. And, coming together is one of the most important things that we can do. And I always enjoy seeing all of you and learning from you and being part of this community. And I hope that that will continue to solidify and grow. And I know that the network and I are about the same age in Wichita Falls, so starting to feel a little more at home. And I want to thank Danny Bills for taking this on. And, he and Amber worked together to have the vision for a theme this year, which I think worked out beautifully. And I hope that, it will show visitors that that our culture is unified and diverse, that we can tell a story that is broad and inclusive and rich. I'm just really proud of Danny and Brianna and Mike for their hard work, and all of you for pulling your objects together and pulling your stories together. That's one of the hardest things. And I know when Danny kind of focused it in on some questions, that probably helped us hone that assignment. And I think it turned out beautifully. So again, very proud to be part of this group, and welcome to the Wichita Falls Museum of Art. I hope you'll come in person and see the show.
So I'm Danny Bills. I'm the curator of collections and exhibitions at the Wichita Falls Museum of Art at MSU, Texas. I was going to speak specifically about the theme because Amber and I brainstormed a few different themes. We ended up deciding on the idea of origin, as in origin stories. So museums could talk about how they came into existence. We put this forward as a suggestion on how the different museums could, come up with ideas for objects that would relate to that theme and to submit those. And it was a little slow at first, so I had some discussion with Amber and Tracy and other people as a staff, and we decided to focus the theme a little bit more. And actually, Cooper from the Red River Valley Museum was sort of the test subject for that, because we came up with these 3 questions, and I sent them to her first to see how, I felt like she would have something to offer on this. And then after she did that, sent that out to everyone else as an example of how to go forward with that. And I think it helped everybody focus. So the 3 different questions that we came up with so you could base your narratives on that was: where did you start? Where are you going? Or no, where did you start? Where are you now? And where are you going? So rather than make it about when, it was where, so you come up with a story that way, not just a biographical kind of detail. So I think this really helped all the museums focus on what they wanted to say. I asked for 300 words for the narrative, and most people went way over because they had so much to say. So there's some editing process there. Honestly, when I think you come to see the exhibit as a whole, I think everyone will be able to enjoy the collective parts and pieces. Because in the past, it was kind of, the last time it was kind of sectioned off to each individual spot. So there's nothing wrong with that kind of sample platter kind of way of looking at it. But I think that with it this way, the people that come to see it will connect with all the organizations, not just the one that they had a special interest in or the one that made them come see it.
It's incredible to me that we're already kind of like in the home stretch of our second year as the Regional Museum Network. The beginning stages of locating and approaching all of the museums seems really like a long time ago, but it just zoomed by so very fast. And I mean, everybody knows this most recent year has been not what we all expected when we set out and started setting up our calendars and for exhibitions and our expectations for the year. But I have been just so amazed by the variety of approaches that the different museums have made to these situations to utilize their time in the way that was the most beneficial either to the public or for their own mental health, or some of you have just been killing it on social media. I mean, serious social media game. I'm so impressed. And then many of the museums just completely overhauled exhibit spaces. And then there were, prior to the shutdown and the most current events, I know a lot of people had some major turnover with their officers and their boards and kind of looking at their missions. And I'm just really excited to see where everyone goes moving forward. And I'm really appreciative to everything that Tracy and Danny did to get the museum day together again this time, which again it's a whole starting for one, it seems like, but it looks gorgeous. I can't wait to see it in person. Definitely want to express my thanks to the Alliance for Arts and Culture board, our board that supports the work that I do and then that we get to do all together, as well as the Texas Commission for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the rest of our generous donors and supporters and the public and the rest of the team, Anne and Audra and Ferdine and Margie, of course. And that's all. Thank you.
Before it was Boomtown, Burke-Burnett was known for agriculture. Crops provided feed for dairy cattle, and milk production became a hallmark of the area. Joseph Kemp and Frank Kell of Wichita Falls purchased land holdings from cattleman and rancher Samuel Burke-Burnett to build a railroad from Wichita Falls into southwest Oklahoma. They built a depot and sold town lots, creating a new city christened Burke-Burnett by President Theodore Roosevelt. Gigantic pools of black gold were struck in 1918 and 1919. Today, the Burke-Burnett Historical Society is focused on preserving, researching, and interpreting history for future generations. In 1981, as an outgrowth of a long-standing committee, the Clay County Historical Society was formed to preserve, protect, and promote the county's history. Members had a dream to find a location to display items they'd been collecting, and in 1985 took on the task of restoring the 1890 jail and sheriff's residence. In 2012, the museum expanded into the former volunteer fire department, allowing the organization to display early agricultural equipment, a printing press, a covered wagon, and more. The next step is to establish an area for traveling exhibits, a space where children could be offered art classes and community groups could meet.
Those probably, with the exception of one thing, are my favorite items that shows the folks of Clay County and how they just would grab something and design something, or they would take on a big project like converting that building, which was going to be bulldozed. And the women and a few men that took on that project to get that building going. And, the dress that is in that was made out of string that they wrapped their goods when they would go to a mercantile. They didn't have plastic bags. And just the way that the folks, made it work, made it do. And we still see that today. We are working toward more exhibits. We have a huge amount of things in our collection that we've not been able to use or we haven't been able to see. So in the next months and years, we have a lot of really good ideas how we want you all to come and see and learn more about the people of Clay County.
The Kell House Museum got its start in 1980 when members of the Wichita County Heritage Society saw a for sale sign in front of what was then the Kell residence at 900 Bluff Street. The organization purchased the historic home in November 1980. It opened to the public the next year. Today, the Kell House Museum remains a community anchor for Wichita County history, telling its story through the lens of the Kell family. Looking forward, the Kell House will undergo a major restoration. Once completed, the Kell House Museum will offer traditional, expanded, and new programming, inviting the public to learn more about Wichita Falls and the Kell family's influence.
We have obviously, like everybody else, been shut down since the pandemic started. But work has been going on behind the scenes, and to actually get to where we can start with our rehabilitation project. So that's actually coming up pretty quickly here. I heard today that we have final approval from THC. So that's pretty big news. Yes, there's some details like, composition of the mortar and just a whole lot of other little things, minor stuff, that they will still want to approve before we actually start slapping some of that stuff on the building. But it's pretty major progress for us. So we'll probably actually get to where scaffolding is going to happen pretty soon. And things will actually start moving on our site. So that's pretty exciting for us, and we'll move forward from there, hopefully, or that will mean that a lot of the damage that is visible currently in the house will get restored. And then we'll be able to, with everything else going on, open back up to the public and do our usual children's programming and our other programming, and be able to expand also and be able to just invite the community back in and just learn more about our local history, which that's what we're all about.
In 2000, a group of people dedicated to preserving the heritage of our region set out to establish the Museum of North Texas History. It opened to the public in 2001. The museum hosts field trips, service groups, lectures, and more. During the COVID-19 health crisis, the museum has been closed, but staff has been using this time to update exhibits and pursue professional development opportunities. The goal for the future is to add more interactive elements so visitors can better experience the distinct history of North Texas.
My name is Madeline, and I'm the executive director at the Museum of North Texas History. We are so excited to be able to participate for the second time in the Regional Museum Network exhibit, Museum Day. This is really important to us. The staff have loved getting to really get to know some of the other local area museums. And this also allowed us a time to show off some cool stuff that we haven't been able to exhibit yet. We have a uniform from the Spanish-American War, which is very unique because it was issued to the soldiers in the Philippines. So it's made out of different material, it has different colors, and you don't see it very often because they were instructed to wear them until they fell apart. So we were really excited to be able to showcase that piece and participate in this wonderful exhibit.
The Red River Valley Museum in Vernon can trace its origins back to 1934. A vacant hospital building became the first home of the museum. In 1985, William Bond donated his collection of 130 record-holding wild game trophy mounts. A modern regional museum was built adjacent to the Vernon College campus. Today, the Red River Valley Museum strives to create an engaging and educational environment. The focus is on the history of the Vernon area, but those stories connect to the entire state of Texas and beyond.
We've relatively been unchanged since '85 when our new building was built. Back in 2012, when Sherry came aboard as executive director, she and the board really started a huge remodeling project. And that first phase was finished in about a year, and the second phase started last year. And it's about to be finished because it was put off due to COVID. But this December, we will be over halfway through with remodeling our entire museum. And on the 24th, I'll be presenting the next phase to our board. These modernizations not only make it more engaging for visitors, but it also makes it more accessible because we're looking to create virtual tours so people can listen without having to even read content or don't even necessarily have to come to the museum. We're trying to broaden our horizons.
The Wichita Falls Fire and Police Museum was established in 1985. The museum started with 2 vintage fire engines, relics, and photos dating back to the 1890s. In 2007, new leadership moved the museum to its present location. The collection today includes 14 fully restored fire engines. Museum leadership envisions a future building in downtown Wichita Falls that would accommodate photos, memorabilia, vehicles, and more. The Wichita Falls Museum and Arts Center opened in April 1967. Originally focused on art, science, and history, The museum achieved prestigious accreditation by the American Alliance of Museums in 1973, with reaccreditation in 2019. Midwestern State University acquired the museum in 2005, and the name became the Wichita Falls Museum of Art at Midwestern State University. The permanent collection contains thousands of artworks on paper and original prints by American artists, more than 2,000 historic and fine art photographs, sculpture, pottery, and more. The Museum of Art at MSU continues to advocate for the power of art to enrich the quality of people's lives.
We have about 50 years worth of collecting works on paper. So one of the pieces in the show is by a small etching by James Whistler from 1859, and we acquired this in 1968, which was like a year after we opened. And so it's a small etching. And then another larger lithograph in the show is an artist of African American heritage, Renee Stout. The third piece that we submitted was a woodcut made by Native American artist Jane Quick to C. Smith, and we acquired that in 2018. So from 68 to 2018, roughly 50 years, we have these three pieces of work. And they show a change of scale in what people were doing in the field of printmaking, and they incorporate a lot more color. The artists that we're acquiring today are competing with paintings and things like that with the way they make their work. So we go from the early majority of artists being of European or American descent, white males, into we have artists of color and female artists, and all of that's possible because it's well represented in the art market. So we have these three pieces not only for their individual aesthetic or historical value, but it also shows the evolution of our collecting path. We've started wanting to collect important artists, and we've continued to collect important artists, but at the same time with community support, we are able to collect important artists that also reflect the makeup of our society.
Sorry we couldn't do the video, but we're really excited to be partners with everybody in this exhibit experience. The Whiteside Museum of Natural History opened its doors for the first time in about 2014, and thanks to the incredible philanthropy of Judge Clyde Whiteside. But the museum opened because of the incredible paleontological significance of the county, which a lot of folks had realized this. The whole county has been dug for fossils since about 1887, so it's actually pretty world famous for fossils that are about 290 million years old. And that's 100 million years before the first dinosaurs. And dinosaurs are the thing in pop culture that kids and adults relate to the most. And the fossils that we find right here in your backyard are literally 100 million years older. And it's the best place in the entire world to study these fossils. So that's really the foremost reason why we opened the museum in the first place, and to really give these communities in our area and your backyard as well access to some of the best fossils in the entire world right here in Texas.
Museums are storytellers. They tell authentic, real, true human nature stories. And they're also story keepers. But the thing that we're most excited about is that they're no longer secrets. There are some of the museums in this network who have donors and volunteers and supporters that have worked for so many years and so many hours to protect the culture and heritage and the stories of our region. And those stories have not been told. And most of the collections have not been seen outside of their communities. So this little initiative started as an idea. Actually, I always give credit to the Clay County 1890 Jail Museum for putting that spark in my head several years ago. And I walked around with it in my head for a couple of years. But handing this idea over to Amber, who has done a terrific job making it real and making it come to life. And then being able to partner with each of the museums to create what you're seeing tonight, to create this wonderful opportunity for us to share virtually now with a much larger audience is just a dream come true. Our organization is a service organization. We should plant seeds and allow them to grow and allow others to fertilize them and nurture them. And this is one opportunity for me to let it go. I really appreciate Danny's wisdom and expertise, and Trace's generosity for letting us steal a space in the museum. But this is not a project that should ever go away. We should commit to doing this kind of work every year, because museums in our region are so important that at some point, we should reach a point where we're overwhelmed with questions and visitors and researchers, and overwhelmed with students wanting to come and learn from these institutions. And I would like to say that the Alliance is a proud supporter of this initiative. And whatever way we can continue to be in the background and support and lead from the rear, I think that that should be our charge. COVID has given us new opportunities. It's given us a chance to think differently. It's given us a chance to own our history and tell our own stories to a much broader group of people. So for those folks that watch this video and see the exquisite work that's gone into putting this exhibition together, you've only seen the tip of the iceberg. So as it becomes safer for us to connect and move around, we hope that you will visit these museums. But until then, I think that it's really a special treat for you to have a chance to see these hardworking arts administrators and museum professionals continue to do the work that they love doing and that I love witnessing and enjoying. So thanks to all of the members of this great team, thanks to the boards of directors of each of these institutions and to the volunteers of each of these organizations. Thank you to the National Endowment for the Arts and to the Texas Commission on the Arts for understanding that America's story is incomplete without the stories that are held in these museums.